Before I could start painting all of the final chassis and also body exterior pieces, I needed to glue a couple of photo etch pieces onto some resin for the disc brakes, and then could move on to applying some primer and various different colors. The body had enough time to cure, so while I was still painting the matte black parts, I figured I'd quickly mask off the body and paint the rubbers and moldings around it as well. Along the areas that I just painted matte black, some of them needed to be gloss black as well. So I quickly masked off a bit more, mixed up some 2K clear, and gave them a couple coats. There were also a couple other areas that still needed some matte black, though it was easier to just brush paint that on, as it's not really highly visible and it is kind of a complicated piece to mask off and spray, so doing it by brush is just the quickest and neatest way in my opinion in this case. After that, I also needed to apply some silver to the buckets for the taillights, and then move on to coloring in all the panel lines with some Tamiya panel line accent color. Most of the details had now been painted on, so I could move on to start assembly. There are a lot of mesh grills all around the body, a lot of them on the hood, and also in the rear bumper, so these of course need to be carefully glued in one by one. After gluing all of the grills in place, I could move on to assembling the taillights. These are made out of a couple of separate pieces, Some of them needed to be painted in clear red and others were just left clear. I could then add some photo etch pieces on the inside to add a bit more detail. While those were drying, I could move on to glue the windshield in as well. This is already pre-painted from the kit and also pre-cut. It just needed a bit more sanding on the side in order to fit perfectly, but other than that, it wasn't really all that hard to do. Before I could glue the brake and wheel assembly all together, I still needed to paint a couple of small bolt details on the discs themselves, and then they could just all be glued onto the body, and the wheels could be put on as well. The kit also comes supplied with a couple metal transfer stickers for some of the rear view mirrors and also a couple of the Ferrari logos and emblems on the rear. These of course needed to be stuck onto the parts, and then I could glue the side mirrors on and also add some of these Ferrari emblems on the rear as well. The final parts that I still needed to glue on were the fins on the side. These were just easily cut to size and then put on with some glue. A small special edition decal was added to the rear grille. I also still needed to tint a couple of the lenses on the rear bumper and also the side markers on the front fenders. And once that was all done, I also needed to paint the inside of the exhaust to hide that it's not really an actual exhaust, and that's pretty much it for the body. And that's pretty much it for the exterior. In the next video, I will be moving on to the interior and hopefully finishing off this entire build.